Hey guys, it's Keith here, and I'm very excited to be showing you what the VDV is capable of, as we're gonna take our VDV to assault into enemy objectives via helicopters, massive bombing runs across the entire front, close range helicopter assault into unsuspecting positions, and having the enemy drop a nuke directly on our units. It's gonna be a very fun game. We're gonna be using our Russian Maverick here, playing on the Baltiysk peninsula, and I hope you sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. This deck that I'm working with is on the Russian side, as you can tell from the earlier minutes or so. We were calling it the Russian Mavericks because it's gonna be a deck without any significant tanks. Nevertheless, we're going to go through more about it later on. For now, an SU-57 is going to be brought out, and we're going to be using that to cover our teammates here and challenge any enemy or American airplanes that might be coming out to greet us. Already we're going to start seeing the F-16 CJ belonging to the purple player. The CJ is an exceptional seed plane, so taking that out would be very useful for our team here. Unfortunately, the CJ has already backed out while SU-57 overextended itself, and it's gonna be eating one of the missiles there, while the enemy Red Raptor finishes the job. So not very good start for my SU-57. Gonna be bringing out a second one to see if we can catch any more extra kills. Already there are plenty of American airplanes in the skies right now. The F-22 Raptors are gonna be a very dangerous threat towards our airplanes here. Thankfully, my SU-57 pushing into this direction is gonna uncover one of the low-flying purple Osprey, which suggests that the enemy is already thinking about landing troops over on this side of the area here to sort of ambush our units and take advantage of our back lines. So really, we're gonna have to quickly eliminate this threat here, as our teammates and myself here is gonna be forced to react to this incursion from the enemy side. We're gonna be retreating our SU-57, and we're gonna see what it develops. What develops here is our teammate in green is gonna be keeping these SU-27 over the skies here, as we ourselves, we're gonna bring out the SU-30SM. The SU-30SM is come equipped with double 1.5 tons of thermobaric bombs here. We're gonna be using it to drop into these STT squads, as well as some other recon units that may have landed into this position here, quickly eliminating the enemy vanguard forces that might be trying to delay or ambush our spawn point. Denying the enemy this advantage early on is going to be crucial. It safeguards your units from being ambushed too early, as well as preventing the enemy having that advantage of recon as well. Mi-24P Phantom here is going to be moving over to the island that has the hotel point. It's going to be bumping into an enemy Little Bird here, which definitely is no match against our Mi-24P Phantom here. Phantom is going to quickly take out the Little Bird, but we've already noticed or spotted that the Little Bird has already dropped off some units, so we're going to be landing our Iglas teams and have our units, our infantry, push out to try to uncover the enemy recon. On a map this small, especially in Baltiysk Peninsula here, it's crucial that we try to eliminate any enemy early recon that might be sneaking towards our back lines. If you let enemy come in come in through the back door, it's going to be a very dangerous thing for our team here, as the enemy could easily sit into one of these high rises here and have full view of all of our assets on our side of the line here. Throughout the entire front right now, our teammate doing really well to securing plenty of positions for our teams here, as we now start to notice that the enemy is doing the same and building up their forces over on their side of the line. Unfortunately, the pink enemy's Chinook manages to survive and dropped off some infantry into Gamma, as another F-16 CJ comes in and tries to eliminate our SAM batteries as well. And also, as soon as it turns on its radar, it's going to be targeted by the same F-16 CJ, and it's going to be taken out for free. Iglas now pushing out. It's going to be uncovering the enemy sniper squads, and then eliminating the snipers early on. It's going to be crucial for us. So Iglas managed to really did his job in finding the snipers up close and personal. Or the Mi-24P Phantom is going to be zooming in right now and quickly eviscerating both of these sniper squads. With our right flank secured right now, we have an open lane into hotel. We're going to start bringing in some reinforcements to secure hotel for our side. So to do that, we're going to be bringing in triple Mi-24PNs, each loaded with a Spetsnaz unit. So we have the SSO, the Spetsnaz GRU, as well as the general infantry, the multiple Hecat squad. These helicopters as well as the infantry are going to be moved into hotel to try to assault that position and capture that objective for us. You see how cool it really is to have these helicopters just flying in a straight line. Going to be hovering them or flying them low altitude, skimming across the ocean right now. Just for the cool effect, because we don't really need to have them push up too early on. As you notice, I already have a grad on the way. This grad here is a little bit special in this deck because I have the grab equipped with smoke launchers instead of its usual explosive payload. Throughout the entire game here, especially in this deck of mine, I'm going to be using the grad as a multiple smoke launcher system to cover my helicopter's approach, and we're going to see that in action in a little bit. For now, because the grad has a maximum range of 3200 meters or 3.2 kilometers, we're gonna have to really push it up closer than I would like it to really be. So right now, just gonna be queuing up the grad into firing a creeping barrage, targeting specifically the buildings here as well as the tree line. Hopefully the smoke is gonna be large enough to cover up to the high rises behind it. You can see that I also have the grad on hold fire at the moment, so it's going to be calculating its firing solution, and when I'm ready, I'm going to target the grad and have it initiate its bombardment. And then my 8 Korova is also bringing in supplies. That's going to be crucial, as our helicopters, although they are powerful, they're going to quickly dispense their ammo, and it will be in need of repair and rearm very quickly on. So already our grad is going to be firing its payload right now. As you can see, the helicopters are pushing in very cool, flying in very quickly on high altitude. Halfway through, we're going to be bringing them in on low altitude, skimming across the ocean as the grad targets another round into a hotel. These Mi-28 are going to be queued up to unload their infantry into the buildings here. Well, unloading them on the beach and into the building. One of the enemy Stinger team managed to find line of sight onto my Mi-24, but as you can see, with the smoke providing decent cover here, these Mi-24s are not going to be targeted anymore, so we're going to be pushing them out and away from the hot zone here, as our infantry now has the dirty job of pushing into the town right now. Going to be clearing these houses building by building and making sure that we eliminate any enemy AA. The operation here is going to be a quick one, where the infantry is specifically used to target the enemy AA. Once the AA is cleared out, then the helicopter would have free reign to engage any enemy assets that might still be hanging about. So it's very cool tactical gameplay here for me, something I'd like to try out more in future games. In fact, I wanted to test this out on an AI match, but if you played with the AI before, you know that the AI is sometimes relatively dumb, so it's not going to react to your pushes the way you think you want them to react. So it's kind of fun for me to test this out against other players. I wanted to see how the other players would have reacted to this kind of assault in my gameplay. Nevertheless, you can see the multiplier already pushing out quite wide. The SSO is using the smoke for cover and pushing into this building here where the enemy stingers was last spotted. It's gonna be uncovering the STT squad that fired the stinger missiles. As both of my Iglas from the earlier fight is already brought out over to this island here. SSO is gonna be storming the building and quickly eliminating the STT squad. So that was an exceptional approach, I think. We have taken over a hotel with little to no damage. We didn't lose any units. Granted that the enemy only has a single STT squad. I think it was a really cool moment for myself here. Using the smoke to cover the helicopter's landing was kind of something that was sort of thought of, and I didn't know that it would work. But it was really cool to see. With hotels secured right now and the enemy seems to have no other units present in this area, we're gonna bring in a supply and make sure that we healed up the Iglas as well as the SSO squad. I really don't want to be committing too much over in hotel, as most of the fight is going to be happening over the peninsula. So we're going to have to spend relatively little resources covering hotel and make sure that we put more attention and focus over on this side of the peninsula instead. Ideally, you want to be putting more attention and effort into where the fight is, so you can help your teammates out and influence the match. So Baltiysk being a very asymmetrical map, it's a very cool map, and the hotel definitely is one of these outlying sectors here that depending on who you ask whether you like to play on it or not, I think it's a very fun challenge, particularly once you've captured it. You have somewhat of a defender's advantage, so the enemy is forced to assault into the objective. So pretty much all I have to do is make sure that I have enough anti-air to prevent the enemy from making any successful landing over in hotel. But throughout the rest of the game, we're going to be focused on the peninsula. At least for this early phase, our objective is to secure hotel, and we've done that beautifully so far. Mi-8 Zeleniv now already bringing in the supplies. We're going to be using the Zeleniv to ferry the SSO back over to the peninsula, as the SSO is no longer needed in this sector here. The Igla, once it's topped up, is going to be garrisoned inside these skyscrapers here, just so that they have better vision against any approaching helicopters. I also have a favorite here, gonna be pushing it out into a position where it can cover the skies better for us. As you can see, I've also brought in a Tornado S. This Tornado is armed with its explosive payload instead of the cluster one. The goal I have in mind for this Tornado is to have a pre-fire or a pre-fire bombardment to soften up the targets where my infantry and helicopters would inevitably be assaulting. But for the time being, we're going to be using it to support our teammate here by softening up the tree lines where I suspect the enemy might be. With hotel secured, our next objective right now would be to assault into Gamma. We really want to be pushing into the peninsula, but for the time being, the red player has already brought out a Chinook, really underestimating the amount of units that I have here. I'm really not certain why, but thankfully for us, the enemy made a devastating mistake where the Chinook was filled to the brim with infantry, and it's going to be taken out very quickly. I think the smoke earlier, as well as the SSO being the only unit that they see, may have tricked the enemy thinking that I don't actually have much, where I in fact had so much anti-air already in position that the enemy has paid for it dearly. Right now you can see that I'm selecting one of the Kurova and bringing in a Skrzet. The Skrzet is going to come in and cover the far side of the island there. Skrzet is powerful enough to really take care of any approaching helicopters or further Chinooks for us. So far our teammate is doing a good job at holding the front line with all of our all of the players here taking up very decent positions across the entire map here. We're gonna look to bring in forces as well to lend a hand and influence the result of the game later on. With a slight lull right now, I just want to take this opportunity to say a quick thank you for watching all of my videos. If you enjoy contents like this and you enjoy my gameplay so far, consider liking the video and telling me about it. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of this interesting tactic and what I can do better if you have any ideas to improve the effectiveness of the strategy so far. Nevertheless, just want to say thank you again. I hope you enjoyed the show. Back to the game. Phase 1 is going to end in 20 seconds or so. We are technically down by 1 point right now as the enemy secured more kills. In terms of objective zone so far, we're relatively even. But like most Broken Arrow games, the Phase 1 is just a prelude of what's to come, as things can switch very quickly on later on in this game. Korova is going to be arriving on station. It's going to be dropping off the Skids. Like I said earlier, the Skids is going to be pushed out to the far side of the island, and it's going to be covering that side of the island for us. Realistically, I don't want to be committing too much over on this island, where not a lot of the fight is going to happen. So the more units I spend on that island, the less I have over in the peninsula, which is going to be troubling because we're going to need a lot more to influence the fight here. So for the rest of the game, technically we're not going to be zooming too much over on the island where hotel is anymore. This Grisette that I brought in, just a little bit of a teaser right now, this Grisette that I brought in actually managed to kill 2 fully loaded Chinooks, which brought the points score to a total of 2,000 points, I believe. But just wanted to say that placing this Grisette there was a good decision. Nevertheless, we're going to be focused on the peninsula right now, as our teammates is starting to struggle a little bit with the enemies starting to build up their forces. Earlier you saw the purple player putting some pressure over on our flanks, and that problem, if you see on the map here, is still a prevalent problem, something that our teammates are going to have to work together to deal with. So with our teammates kind of distracted and pulled far away from the objectives, we really have to push in our forces into Gamma to support or draw the enemy's attention away and alleviate some of the pressures that our center players here, the neon green as well as the teal player, might be facing. So the idea I have for Gamma was initially a grad to drop some smokes for my BTRs to swim across the river and push across. If you notice, by BTR it's actually the BTR-82AT, which also is equipped with the K-Charmer. Something I failed to remember is that when you upgrade the BTR-82 with K-Charmer, it makes them completely not amphibious at all. So in this case, I happened to think that they were actually having some difficulty with the pathing issues here. Little did I know that the BTR refuses to go into the water only because they're gonna end up sinking. And so a little bit of a mistake on my end here, which isn't gonna be costing me much other than the valuable time and pressure, or in this case the valuable surprise that I could have had if I had known that these BTRs were not amphibious at all. BTRs are going to be uncovering one of the enemy Comanche that's going to be launching its missiles towards us. But so far, our grad has initiated a very nice smoke coverage for essentially nothing right now. So we're really going to have to quickly switch up the plan a bit, and you're going to see how effective the VDV can be when you use the helicopters and smokes effectively. This was a very nice surprise for me. It was a welcome surprise because I'm now forced to use my helicopters more crucially than ever. The tornado forget what I just said. The enemy player just dropped the nuke on the center of the map here, completely eliminating most of the neon green players' assets that are defending over Charlie right now. So the enemy is quickly pushing the objective over in Charlie, and our teammates are taking the brunt of the action right now. So we really have to make sure that we bring up forces here to assault Gamma and alleviate some of the pressures that our teammates has been facing. A couple of helicopters has been brought on standby as this grisette is already in position. Both the Mi-24 PNs are also on standby, and we're just getting our units in order to assault Gamma. Still, at this point, I think I hadn't realized that my BTR was not able to cross on water. So you're gonna see in a little bit as well what's gonna happen soon. So Grad is gonna be targeting that section of the island, that section of the land there, so that our units can comfortably push into these objectives here, or push into these buildings here and assault Gamma from that direction. Tornado is going to be queued up as well, and I want to time the Tornado as well as the Grad together so that the Tornado can soften up the targets before my BTR 82 can push onto the water here and land their units across. You're going to see what's going to happen next in a little bit. I have an OSA as well as a S300 on standby to cover the sky here in case enemy helicopters or aircraft comes into play. As the Grad starts launching its payload, the BTR-82 are going to be ordered to push across the river, but refusing to carry out the order because they're just going to end up sinking. Fivora is going to be targeting the enemy aircraft, but at that distance they're not going to be hitting anything much. And I think at this point I realized the BTR-82 was not amphibious at all, and not wanting to waste the smoke that has already been queued up, I am now forced to use my helicopters directly and landing them into the smoke, where my Desaniki as well as the SSO that was being brought over from the island in hotel, I'm going to be using them to assault. Flying the helicopters over high altitude before dropping them to low altitude, skimming across the water here was a very cool scene. Hopefully, and successfully rather, the smoke managed to cover the helicopter's approach. Tornado is still going to be queued up to fire into the objective area right now. As the SSO made landfall, it's going to be told to push into these buildings to cover, while the Desaniki is going to be following along. Zeleniv also dropped off very crucial supplies across the river here, and it's going to be used to ferry some of the units that were brought in by the BTRs across the river as well. You can see I'm unloading the infantry that's sitting inside these useless BTRs. The BTRs are going to be pushed up to provide some longer range support. As you can see, the enemy did in fact have a Stinger team here, but because of our smoke coverage from our Grads, the Stinger was unable to target the helicopters that were landing forces there. So I think if you're looking to use this kind of tactic as well, you might want to consider bringing out a lot of smoke. So far I think the Grad has been exceptional for this, because the Grad is capable of launching a large payload of smokes in a very wide area. Zeleniv is going to be using one of the helipads here to land some of the reinforcing units, as our units right now, the Desaniki as well as the SSO, is going to start pushing into the Gamma objective. We're going to have our helicopters on standby to provide support. As you can see here, we're going to be queuing up, flying over the river. And now the SSO is going to be pushed into the Gamma objective and start securing the sector for us. Pushing into the sector is going to unveil the Cavalry Scout as our teammate now suddenly calling a vote for surrender. I think it's still a bit too early to determine the winner just yet. It's still the middle of the game right now, even though the enemy might seem to have a lot of advantage at the moment. So we're really going to have to put in the pressure here to draw out the enemy forces over on this side. This section on Gamma is kind of perfect for us because the enemy only has a narrow gap where they're going to be forced to flood their units in. We're going to have a relatively comfortable time at maintaining our position with a limited number of units. So our goal right now is to draw both the red and the pink player, which seemingly we're successfully doing so with the pink player right now. And this is going to alleviate some of the pressures felt by our teammates here in Charlie, which is going to eventually allow our teammates to push back into Charlie and secure that front. VDV Spetsnaz as well as another SSO team is already been pushed into the sector now, as our OSA is going to find line of sight against the enemy Apache that's hovering just behind the storage here. Brad once again is going to be dumping a lot of smoke there. The smoke is also going to be covering the enemy units, but with our SSO, the experts in close range combat, CQC, we're going to have a relatively confident approach into Gamma ourselves. Like I said, right now the score with our enemies sort of having a massive lead. We're gonna really have to push quite aggressively right now to try to even out the score, specifically to secure Gamma and inflict as much damage as we can on both red and pink players. SSO is going to be pushed into that building, really taking advantage of their flashbang and CQC to eliminate the enemy sniper squad. It's our Mi-24 now pushing out of the smoke. It's going to be targeted by the enemy A, but with the ample amount of buildings for cover, it's going to dive low and retreat back into safety. Now earlier you see the F-16 CJ actually coming in and destroying some of my SAM batteries here, which is very unfortunate for me because this means the enemy now has limitless capability of using their aircrafts to hunt down my helicopters that are hovering about. I really have to be careful right now, and as I also have brought out an Su-30SM to try and bomb some targets for our units here. But because we don't have any SAM covering our aircraft there, the enemy was quick to take advantage of that and eliminating both my helicopters as well as the Su-30SM. So in a bit of a pickle right now because the pig player is starting to assault in force, pushing more units into Gamma position where our VDV Spetsnaz is currently holding the line. The enemy's heavy tank is definitely a massive threat as our infantry lack the necessary RPG penetration to eliminate the enemy tank from the frontal armor. We're gonna have to figure out a solution very quickly, and that's gonna be in the form of an aircraft. But so far, for now, the Tornado is gonna be queued up to provide a creeping barrage once again into this narrow choke point here, as our VDV Spetsnaz is trying to hold on against the multiple enemy units coming in. Seeing this many enemy units grouped together in a tight cluster like this is perfect for my Su-30SM as I brought in a second one. It's going to be queuing up its bombing run directly onto the tank as well as the group of units there. My Desaniki is struggling to hold the line against the enemy tank, but the VDV Spetsnaz definitely is calling in a danger close. In this case, way too close for comfort. The bomb does take out our own VDV Spetsnaz, but nevertheless it was a worthy sacrifice because we managed to blow up essentially all of the enemy's units inside the sector. So far our plan is technically working because we're drawing more of the pink players as well as the red players units into Gamma right now, with Gamma being quite an attritional point here, where both sides, my forces as well as the enemies, is going to constantly have to push in units to engage in close quarters, with us having artillery support to make sure that we punish enemy units using that narrow gap to approach Gamma. We're going to try to inflict pressure and keep the enemy's focus on Gamma so that we alleviate our teammates here from the enemy's assault. Teammates' helicopter is pushing in a little bit too close for comfort there, In fact, it's going to be taken out by the enemy's AA hiding in these tree lines there. We're going to be using a tornado once again to shell that area, soften up the targets, and hopefully destroy any crucial softer pieces there. Phase 2 is about to end. As you can see, we've neutralized 2 of the enemy objectives points here, so the enemy is still technically up in kill scores, but we're quickly catching up. Hopefully we're gonna have the advantage soon, but for the time being at least, with our forces pushing into Gamma, we did alleviate some of the pressures here and stabilize the scores, at least in terms of conquest. The Zelenev is going to be crossing the river once again to bring in necessary crucial supplies as artillery lands once more and soften the target further up front. As you can see, the red player is also bringing in heavy tanks now into Gamma, as our teammates is already pushing into Charlie throughout this entire fight into Gamma. So our plan right now is working really well actually for our side. Gonna be bringing in an Igla and putting them in one of the buildings towards the far right to cover the front here from enemy helicopters that might be coming in. Multiple Heka reinforcements is also coming in, as well as our teammate, Teal teammates BMP3 is going to be pushing out and covering a lot of Stinger teams sitting in these positions here. It's going to be a perfect position. As you can see, I was trying to queue up the Su-30SM, but I don't actually have one available to me, so instead I'm going to be bringing up a tornado, the second one, and trying to shell that position. Osa, being an amphibious unit, is able to cross the river itself, and we're going to move it into further out to the right here to cover these guys for us. The enemy red player now is bringing in his heavy, I believe this is a Sep V2 trophy, destroying the building that was where my VDV Spetsnaz was taking cover in. And you can see the heavy tank's frontal armor is definitely a threat, as none of the Motopoheka's RPG is capable of penetrating that armor. And we're gonna end up having to retreat our forces and really surrendering point to the enemy right now. In the spawn point right now, you can see triple helicopters already flying in, as we're going to use these helicopters to support our infantry here. Tornado S is going to be queuing up a barrage into the positions where we last saw the enemy Stinger teams. Destroying enemy AA assets is going to help clear the skies a little bit more, makes it a little bit more safer for my helicopters to roam freely around. Osa is just going to be parked into a position where they can catch the enemy helicopter by surprise, as the wounded Motopoheka's team is going to push into these buildings here to try and engage and provide line of sight for my helicopters that I have failed to queue up in time. So really poor timing on my end, but the Grad also providing some smoke coverage between the buildings here. It's going to help me. It's going to help protect my helicopters from the enemy's long-range shore ride. Spetsnaz GRU now in position, as finally my helicopters arrive to provide necessary rocket into these buildings here. It's going to be quickly destroying the tow teams there. You can see quickly it's running out of rockets already, so we're going to have to push it back to resupply, as the boomerang takes out the mech engineers belonging to the pink player. Pink player has also brought up a airborne team. The airborne does have the Ross rocket launcher, so our boomerang is not going to be remaining there any longer. Teammates cluster artillery strike does land on target right now, but unfortunately there's nothing for him to really damage for the time being. But we do spot a juicy target for our tornado, and we're going to be aiming one of the tornado into the orange player's position, helping to clear that area for our teammates to resecure Echo once again. And see on the map on the left side here, our teammates have been pushed back really far thanks to the enemy's effort. But with our efforts here in Gamma, we're going to be drawing more focus and attention once again, allowing our teammates to really work together and re-secure some of the positions they've lost previously. This is definitely gonna help swing the game into our direction. As you can see right now, our scores in terms of kills is actually much higher than our opponents right now. All we have to do is make sure that we maintain this momentum and recapture some of the positions that we've lost, specifically the Alpha and Bravo positions. Wherever we can, we're going to be using our tornado to assist by shelling some of these positions from a long range, and definitely helping our teammates on the left side of the map here themselves. So right now, with our infantry sort of damaged and desperately in need of supplies, we're going to be using a grad to once again provide some smoke cover so that our helicopters can come in and land some necessary supplies and reinforcements. You can see all quiet on the island, but in fact, like I mentioned earlier on, the Spetsnaz actually managed to take down 2 Chinooks that were coming in, as this tornado lands a perfect shot onto the enemy shore, destroying it completely and also dissuading the pink players from pushing his reinforcements into Gamma. You can see this narrow choke point is definitely working to our advantage, as our limited numbers here is managed, our limited infantry here managed to really draw in fact both of the enemy players into recapturing Gamma and securing this island here. The more attention that we can secure and try to draw out the enemies from this direction, the more we alleviate the pressure from our teammates on the left side there. STT firing its Stinger missiles from the ship there, luckily to be dodging there with helicopters, but the Mi-24 does take a shot with the Mi-24 now hovering at low altitude. Is going to be dodging some of the missiles there and pushing away to a safe distance. Motopoika moving into position is going to be revealing the STT as the teammate's Kornet blows up the ship, and down goes the ship with the STT on board. As you can see, once again, the smoke providing crucial cover for our helicopters to push in. As our transport helicopters pull back, the Mi-24 pushes in very aggressively, and once again, this narrow choke point is definitely working in our favor, and we're going to be unleashing a lot of bullets and rockets into the enemy infantry that are now stuck together in a very tight corridor right now. The other Mi-24 is unfortunately being targeted out in the open by the enemy shore rat there that's covering the open ground, or the open ocean. Korova bringing in supplies for these double tornadoes that are quickly dispensing some of the ammunition, as the pink player is already pushing in their units closer into position, as the enemy's cluster Gimlers is shelling the position right now. Doesn't do a lot of damage to our infantry. In fact, it does team kill one of the Abrams that is already hiding inside the smoke. Motopoeka catching the mech engineers off guard, out of position right now, but the mech engineer is definitely a very strong unit to have. Feeling a little bit daring, both of my BTR 82s are going to be pushing out onto the main road right now and try to inflict as much damage as they can, with the enemy technically having no presence at all in Charlie. This Mi-24 made the mistake of pushing up too close. I was trying to target the supply dump, but the rockets missed, and we failed to inflict any crucial damage with that helicopter instead. With this BTR cheekily sitting in between these buildings here, it's going to be revealing a lot of enemy units in position. So this is the perfect time to show off the VDV's Su-30SM as well as the Su-24MP. The Su-24 is going to be equipped with the harm missiles, so providing seed capabilities, as well as some laser guided missiles that are targeting some of these enemy aircraft there, as the bombs drops onto position directly on top of the tanks, destroying a lot of crucial enemy assets. And once again, we're going to be pushing in our infantry and putting a lot of pressure onto the enemy right now. As you can see, we've battered both the pink and red player quite heavily enough that they're not going to have a lot of units protecting the Charlie sector right now. Teammates in teal right now pushing in a lot of BMP trees on the left side here. And the purple player decides a nuke on our position is the solution to our aggression. I think in hindsight, I think that was a relatively good trade for us team-wise, because my units were not the biggest threat, I think. If you can see on the left side here, the momentum on our team here is slowly gaining on the left side as our teammates here is starting to pile their units up in a brute force attempt to break through the enemy position. Our units here were mostly just acting as a sort of a distraction here, tempting target for the enemy to drop or waste their nuke. In fact, the nuke only secured, I think, about 600 points worth of infantry and units around. So technically a relatively good trade for our team here. Nevertheless, we're going to end up losing Gamma, so we're going to have to come up with more infantry, more reinforcements to resecure this position, as our grad once again trying to provide some smoke screen so that we can distract the enemy further into committing more units into Gamma. Our plan of being a distraction in Gamma is technically working, as our teammate in teal here is successfully recapturing Charlie for our team, and we're also up by kill points quite a lot. We're still gonna maintain this momentum right now and really put up, rank up the pressure once again, as we are 4 minutes and 20 seconds down the clock to the end of the game. Zelenev, carrying both the Motopoika as well as the Spetsnaz crew, is going to be on standby right now, waiting for the grad to deliver its smoke payload onto target before we land the units back into position in Gamma. Unfortunately, teammate, the teal player here failed to bring up any anti-air assets, so the purple player's Comanche is going to have a free time shooting down his vehicles. But nevertheless, the grad now unleashing its payload of smoke, and we're going to be pushing in our units, our helicopters, into the objective right now. The Mi-24 coming into close contact with these double mech infantry. Now, a solid idea for our opponents here to be using mech infantries, as they are exceptionally good in close quarter combats, but what they fail to anticipate is a helicopter landing in front of their faces and really punishing their aggression here. You can see how useful the smoke is in protecting my helicopters from anti-air, as the anti-air assets that the enemy has no line of sight onto my helicopters, so my infantry now is going to be used to push up into Gamma. I've also brought up an orthonic here, Hornik, with its long-range Ataka missiles able to really destroy the enemy's vehicles from afar. Kudos to the red player here for bringing in a Delta team in the close-range encounters here, with the smoke providing him extra concealment. Is going to be a very tough opponent for me to dislodge. We're going to have to bring up an SSO team here to really challenge the Delta in close range. And here we go on the left side here, our teammate actually massing up their forces together is going to break through, just like what Russian doctrines would be, brute force attempt to break through into Alpha, and the enemy is going to be forced to consolidate their forces as well and react to our teammates' aggression. Furthermore, we're still drawing the red and pink players units here, so the more we draw out the two players units on this side, the less they're gonna be useful in supporting our supporting their teammates over on the other side of the front here, as a massive brawl with bombs dropping everywhere right now. It's definitely a lot of things happening on this map. Orthonic now long-range missiles attacking the Abrams from a distance. It's going to be safe from from the enemy AA for the time being as we push out our Mi-24 and try to secure more kills for our side. Score-wise, we are up in terms of kill points massively, and suddenly the tide turns where initially our teammate thought it might have been a losing game, when suddenly the second half of the game things quickly turn around and we are definitely winning this game right now. As you can see, if the enemy has saved his nuke, this would have been a perfect target right now, as my teammates are all pushing all their units into the alpha sector. A single nuke right now would have turned the tables completely as well for the enemy team. But thankfully we managed to sort of soak up the enemy's nuke option. And yeah, I would think this is a win for me. Nevertheless, there's little that we can do over in Gamma right now, so we're going to be bringing up a couple of aircrafts to try to join in on the fight over on this end and see if we can support our teammates on their push towards Delta. With 5 seconds left on the clock, it's going to be GG. And there we have it. Victory. That was a really cool game, I think. A very cool use of the VDV helicopters as well as the smoke. We didn't come up on top, but I think we did really well by being in second with a good score of 7,700 kills, 4,630 deaths, a 1.66 KD ratio, couple medals. I think that was as best as we can for this map. It was technically my first time trying out a smoke push with the helicopters. So if you enjoyed that, do give it a like. Let me know in the comments below what do you think about this strategy and how I could have done it better. I'm definitely going to try this out more games in the future. As you can see, the skids definitely took out a lot of kills with double Chinook there. The red player was attempting to land into hotel. That's it. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.